experts on development who are in the house, and that has to do with Roland. And I think I'm going to start with him, so he can introduce himself, and then he can introduce his colleagues and former colleagues.
Thank you very much. What is the standard phrase? I was not expected to speak. But as we already heard, when he says you have to speak, there is no way around it. So I'm really a pleasure to meet all of you, many of you again, see all the faces again. You can't imagine how excited we are after 2 years not meeting with people, now being back in Kenya, which is like coming back to France, to a beautiful country, beautiful culture, beautiful people. So it's really wonderful to see all of you around. And I'm so happy that this meeting can take place, because it stimulates so many memories and so many good things that have happened over the years we have spent here in this country. And we see and hear how they have grown. It's like putting seedlings in the ground, and when you come back after a couple of years, well, there's a bush or a tree and the fruits are emerging. And that's really beautiful, so wonderful. Thank you so much for all the contributions we've heard. As Wani said, I would like to introduce a few colleagues of mine, some ex-colleagues, some current colleagues who work in the development sector. As you may know, my career has been with child development. I've worked for children's organizations for now over 20 years. First Plan International, and there we have my colleague here, Deputy Regional Director for Northern Africa, is that called now, right? Charles Muzungu. Charles, want to say a few words quickly?
Wani said so.
I don't know how to continue this culture, but I really appreciate the fact that I was invited here. As Roland said, I work for a children's organization focusing on children's rights and equality for girls. And I have been traveling. I actually cover the Middle East as well, and I have been witnessing the actual reality of children caught in vulnerability that they did not create. And that is the situation when we sleep every other day we think about, because the realities in all those situations and contexts where children are caught in the situation of war, in the situation of famine, in the situation of, they have so many vulnerabilities that have not enabled them to realize their potential. And our role with Roland has been to make a simple contribution when we can, to support with other stakeholders where we can, so that we can give them hope for the future. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Charles. Let me continue, because a former regional director with Plan, when we actually came to Africa, was Luther. Luther Andukur was instrumental when we came to this country, and I started my work in a new environment, a new office, with new people. He was my deputy back then, but since he has moved on, he's working with the International Union of Conservation. Luther, please say a few words about that work you're doing right now.
Thank you so much, Ronald. It's great to be here, and thanks so much, Wani, for putting this together. I was invited to this event a few days ago. It was great to have Ronald and Wani back to Nairobi. So Ronald is, I don't know how to describe him, but he's a boss for my family, because he was my boss 4 years ago, or 5 years, about 7 years now ago. And he's the boss for my wife now, so yeah, so anyway, it's such an interesting coincidence. But I worked for the child development agencies for many years, and that was my main calling. But then now I work for nature conservation, so I work for the International Union for Conservation of Nature. I think in all of this, the stories this afternoon have been really, really very captivating. because it's all about stories of transformation, how people are changing and their life journeys, and I think it's all very exciting. It's a story of hope. I think we live in a world where there is a lot going on that causes a lot of desperation and hopelessness and a lot of inequality and a lot of divide. But the stories today we are hearing are really stories of hope, stories of we can do it, stories of personal transformation right from an individual going on to extend to others. And I think this is really quite exciting. And thanks so much, Wani, for these great stories. I wonder where was I all these years? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Luther, and you gave away already my next point. And the story moved on. We moved out of Nairobi. I became regional director in Asia for a new organization called Child Fund International. And as they found after a while, Asia is not big enough for me. They said, you also have to take on countries in Africa. And that brought me back, and I'm also responsible for the operations in Kenya and in Mozambique. And one of the first tasks I had to do in this role was to hire a new country director for Kenya. And so we interviewed candidates, and as it was in the middle of the pandemics, everything was online and via video. And we settled kind of on a lady we found is quite capable, good experience, and she has a good personality, and we thought she could be a good director for us. And then I said at the end of the interview, I said, your surname, Anukur, that sounds familiar to me. By any chance do you know Luther Anukur, who was a former colleague of mine? I said, yeah, that's my husband. So, small world, and that's how Alice came into the picture, and she's now the country director for Child Fund here in Kenya. And Alice, please give us a few words on your work.
Thank you, Roland. So my boss, when he says it, will I say no? But really, the more reason I came is because of Wani. He came to visit the country program, and we spent a week together talking about program models and sustainability. But being accompanied by his wife, everywhere we went to Kisumu, went to Imali, went to different places. Each minute you gave Wani a microphone to talk, she just gets connected to everyone and leaves people with energy, inspired and motivated to do more what they are doing. So thank you, Roland, for introducing me to Wani, to introduce me to the other side of your life. I'm really honored to know my boss better this week, holistically, in that he's not just in this business for a salary. I really see that you're living a life of touching lives, especially the lives of children, looking at your connections, looking at your association, your family. And you know, we were launching a strategy yesterday for Kenya, which is connected to the global strategy of Child Fund. And that strategy is called Growing Connections. You've helped me grow more connections. And I see many people here, like someone said, more phone calls are going to come, more coffees are going to come, because then you're going to be some of the people that are going to help us reach 1 million children and their families, to ensure that the deprived, excluded, and vulnerable children are able to grow up healthy, educated, skilled, and safe, right? Safe. It's really all about unity in diversity for a great cause. So thank you, Wani, for organizing this and for inviting us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, this is an activity where our hearts, our souls, and our minds connect. Yeah? And it is happening. It is when you go into the room, you strip yourself of your ego. Because we're not coming here to show off. Because we're not here because we want people to recognize us. We are in this room because we want to celebrate life. Isn't it? We are celebrating that beside the difficulties we went through 2 years ago, we are here. Yeah, and we still have love for humanity. you know? And we have gone from, and I always say this to people when I work from myself as a performer, as a professional,